Welcome to another episode of Team Anywhere, where CEOs, leaders, and experts at building teams,
companies,
organizations,
and amazing cultures share how to lead from anywhere in the world. I'm your co-host on the East Coast, Ginny Bianco Mathis.
And I'm your co-host on the West Coast, Mitch Simon. And we invite you to join us to Team Anywhere. What if you could measure culture? What if you could measure team and inter-team interactions? What if you could build a culture that gives employees the one thing they're begging for, consistent and authentic recognition? On this week's podcast, Dan Kasper, founder of Wishlist, shows us how to build a culture that values and practices recognition in unique ways and has the data to prove its efficacy. You'll want to stay tuned to perhaps the most effective tool to enhance your culture as you team anywhere.
Welcome to another episode of Team Anywhere. I'm your co-host, Dr. Virginia Bianco Mathis on the East Coast, and I'm here with my fabulous co-host, Mitch Simon on the West Coast.
Hello, everybody.
And yes. And I am here with a wonderful guest. We are here, Dan Kasper. And Dan is a growth architect and innovator with passion for building high-performing teams and deriving long-term results by leveraging the power of technology and challenging the status quo. He was in the Navy, the U.S. Navy, for 6 years in special operations with SEAL Team 5. Now, that's a whole other podcast that we probably could have, right? And after leaving active duty, he worked for Airbnb, and he initiated and executed global expansion for the trust and safety teams in the America and Asia Pacific. He is currently CEO of Wishlist, an HR technology organization, which helps build cohesive cultures and engagement within workforces. And in his spare time, he just loves to go out and look for stories or create them himself. Welcome, Dan.
Yes, thank you both. Thanks, Jenny. I see we have the East and West Coast represented, all joined from the Mid Coast here in Denver, Colorado. But I appreciate you guys hosting. Yep, I've been looking forward to this opportunity and the chance to connect with you guys on Team Anywhere podcast. So thank you in advance for having me.
Oh, terrific.
Great to have you here. We got someone on Mountain Time.
That's
right. We have really learned our time zones having a podcast. So Dan, we're going to start off like we usually do, at least for maybe one more year. Then we may have to drop this. But What have you learned? What have you learned during this real tumultuous few years? With the pandemic coming out, going virtual, all that good stuff.
Yeah, you're exactly right. It has been an interesting or even, tumultuous past few years. What we're seeing from the HR space is, the work landscape has completely shifted. And if we as business leaders haven't shifted how we're investing in our culture or supporting our people, odds are our team's performance and culture are also impacted or suffering as well. And why is this happening? Well, because strategies and initiatives also need to adapt to the drastic changes that have happened, are continuing to happening within the work environment and the overall ecosystem. 2020 and the aftershocks now that are kicking into 21, and as you mentioned, potentially getting into 2022 have really shaken the organizations and the work landscape to the core. We're seeing that employees have been feeling unappreciated, unsupported, and alone. Conversely, companies are also scrambling to adapt to this new era of work. So if we aren't adapting, us as employers and leaders within the business landscape, we're also falling behind, whether we know it or not. So as you mentioned in your question, there's definitely a lot of data and insights coming off this phase of the workforce. So let's look at some of those specifically tailored to the last 2 years and kind of surrounding the employee engagement space and culture. We're seeing that 91% of employees working from home reported experiencing moderate to extreme stress. And 69% of workers claim that the past 2 years alone have been some of the most stressful times that they've experienced their entire professional career, including major events like September 11th or even the 2008 recession. So To counter this, we've seen an increased trend of successful employers playing an expanded role in their employees' financial, physical, and mental well being. So it's time for us as employers to really step up and to offer some more help into various components of our team's lives. So McKinsey Consulting actually ran an interesting story which showed that organizations that have been investing in building engagement over the last 2 years will be in better positions than others because building these cohesive cultures also has a direct link to business performance. And these cohesive cultures is something that we really believe in with our software. We define it as an organization's ability to innovate, experiment, and also kind of quickly take advantage of new opportunities. So it's especially important in today's environment. And those companies that are adapting, investing in their people are seeing 55% more productivity across their teams, 49% increase in well-being, and 21% increase in their bottom line.
Right, right. Which then, to fill that all in, is Wishlist. And could you just give us a description? What is Wishlist?
Yeah, Wishlist is a human resources company in the tech space. We focus on building engagement and culture. So our mission is essentially to amplify company performance through igniting the power of people. So our software aims to do that through, kind of taking core human concepts that have been around for millennia, the art of human connection and the psychology behind it. We then digitize it. So whether you're on the East Coast, the West Coast, or the Mid Coast, you can still be involved in building that culture. And thirdly, we're also linking that to company performance because we understand that businesses aren't just social clubs; they're out to accomplish something. And so we are connecting the data piece to human behavior and culture as well.
Okay,
Right.
so
Yeah, Mitch.
I got to jump to the chase because that was a lot of data. Thank you so much for that, Dan.
Yeah, we
All
love
right,
data.
I do.
Me too.
Okay, everyone has heard that we need to invest in our culture.
Mhm.
And for the most part, most people have no idea where to invest because investing in the culture was okay, lunches and social events and comfy chairs and ping pong tables.
Mhm.
Where are people investing and what are the returns that they're finding right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So the correct answer is it depends. Like any lawyer will tell you, but it really does because your culture is very unique and it should be unique. It should be different. It should be your culture should be defined independently of that of others. So I think it depends upon your values and what you're trying to accomplish, and that's what I suggest. Starting it is making and investing in a system that is unique and accomplishes what you want it to for your specific vision and mission. So that may be, and what we're seeing is things that have been done in the physical world should try to look to solutions that are doing that in the digital world. So what we see and what we adapt and build are a solution to incentivize behavior. So that's with our rewards solution. And what we do differently in the reward space is instead of offering plaques and trophies, we're very passionate about things that are memorable. So we leverage experiences. So think driving Ferraris, skydiving, brewery tours, trips to Costa Rica, things that are a bit more meaningful and that can help build your employer brand. And we're also seeing the needs coming out of the COVID environment really changing on recognition. And that's the biggest change that we've seen in the workforce is, companies have worked extremely hard to build their culture. And now they've had to shake that up. And so while even recognition solutions that have worked for companies in the past now, if they're not doing things differently, they're starting to fall behind and create gaps within their organization because one, the demographics have shifted within the workforce pretty significantly in the past few years, but also we have a new environment. So what we're seeing being very important in today's solutions that people should look for to kind of develop their culture is recognition solutions that are impact focused. So, what has traditionally been a solution to send points back and forth as a way to say thank you, we're seeing currency is less important to today's demographic. So, look for solutions that are more impact focused. So, you're able to see how different people and teams are performing, even in remote environments. We're also seeing that recognition of today is less just A to B. It's less just from Mitch to Jenny. Perhaps there's Dan involved too. So we're seeing a multivariate approach being very important. So like peer-to-peer-to-peer concepts, solutions that are also making recognition less of an afterthought and more top of mind through prompts, or integrations or leveraging technology to run and automate programs for you is very important. And then we're also seeing a very push towards power of choice and more meaningful concepts. Again, one solution isn't a fit all for others. So making sure you can link to your company values, link to your performance goals, and make sure something's unique and fun to be engaged with.
So, can you give us an example or two or three on impact focused solutions that have worked in companies that you're working with?
Yeah, of course. So like a use case or like a case study
Absolutely.
for us? Yeah, of
Okay.
course. So yeah, we actually recently started working with a company out of the Bay Area. They have about 1,400 employees. They're in the computer network and IT security, but they had a need because they hadn't really updated their rewards and recognition strategy in about 8 years. They had looked to leverage more the power of choice to fit their diverse team, and they wanted rewards more meaningful than their gift card. So they ended up going with Wishlist because we were impact and are more impact focused and not about points. That's a key differentiator for us. We have top notch experiences, and then we have integrations to Microsoft Teams, so it's in places they already work. So exciting to see is that to date, 68% of their team has been rewarded. We're also seeing weekly engagement. About 60%. And then their employee net promoter score, which is a unique way to measure kind of company culture and happiness within that as a likelihood to recommend working there, is actually up 27% to 52 since the launch. So it's been fun to look at the data pieces. Some other things that they were able to find by using the Wishlist software is we actually double down on data and insights surrounding people, and that separates us from others because we realize, humans are very complex. They're not just binary and zero ones, but it's so important to be able to gather data surrounding your people. So one of our data elements is actually inclusivity score. And so they were able to use that tool to see the relationship between sales and account management was actually degraded because there was less interactions between those departments as compared to others. So they were able to jump in with some team building, and now their interactions have improved. And since their launch process from new clients has also improved, and then finally, they also realized the trend that offboarded employees were recognized 40% less than current company averages. So they could create flags and insights and warnings that, hey, if somebody is not getting recognitions at this level, it's time to start doing so, or they're going to be a flight risk for us. So these are some of the data and insights that we like looking at. And it's been interesting to see them used in the wild from some of these case studies and use examples.
So, can you give
That's
us an
so
example?
exciting. Yeah.
Can you give us an
Go ahead.
example of an impact focused reward? Because we're used to get, in our world here, at least on the West Coast, oh, I got a gift card. Oh, I
Mhm.
got some money. Oh, I got a bonus. Oh, I got a thank you note. What are some things that are actually happening with the companies that you're working with? What are they receiving that such that they go, oh my gosh, this was amazing, and my NPS net promoter score went up?
Yeah, that's the unique thing is, rewards are it can be so specific to people. And being able to leverage the power of choice is really what we're excited about. As I mentioned, we originally started with experiences and have since built out a marketplace. We have about 5,000 of those. Things that are a bit more meaningful: go horseback riding, ski in the mountains, go to a spa day, stuff like that. We also expanded. We offer travel now for some of those sales spiffs or more high value rewards, so you can travel on behalf of your company. We have swag, so you can wear and represent your company's swag and apparel. We have custom rewards that companies can build as well. So whether that be lunch with the CEO, additional paid time off. So really kind of having custom approaches. And even through COVID, we had a stay-at-home category that was about 62% of our bookings, things like executive coaching or learn a second language. And so some of the fun stories coming off this is we actually saw recently a couple get engaged through a wish list experience and a reward. We
That's a
also
reward.
Exactly. So these are some of the, interactions that are happening, being facilitated on behalf of the employer. And now we're talking about stories and memories and things like cash is always great, right? It's great to get that monetary reward. We're not saying, that's, not to do that. We're saying that there's additional things you can do that can be more memorable and help you build your brand and connect people and build your culture, which is really how we try to leverage our marketplace.
Yeah, I love the way that your focus is on story focused rewards. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. If I get a gift card, there's no story there. But if I go horseback riding or if I find my wife, that's an incredible story.
Oh,
Exactly. I mean,
yeah. Right. Right.
You're exactly right. I mean, that's kind of in human nature, right? Humans communicate best through storytelling, and that's part of that human psychology built in through the platform. We also hear kind of the opposite of that, of horror stories of rewards. And, through the consultative sales processes, we've heard a story where somebody who recently became sober was sent a box of wine. We heard somebody who was hearing impaired receive an iPod, and that stuff like that can
Oh,
actually do more harm than good, and have an
right.
adverse effect to your company. So it's an interesting, to be able to build, and fun to build a marketplace to have options that are more memorable and let people pick what's most important to them.
Yeah, those are really good stories, by the
Oh,
way.
they are. They are. Now, let's go back just a little further in terms of so there's wish list, I know, in our company. Um, how does it work from the employee point of view? I go to a meeting and what? I might think it's a great meeting. And so then I go to Wishlist and I say, had this great meeting. We all came together and kudos to Charlie and Ann, blah, blah. And
Yeah,
that
so
goes into the system.
exactly. So a picture. So we're web-based applications. You can log in anywhere you have internet, and imagine almost like a social media feed. However, it's more catered to the workplace. And the concept of our platform is essentially several fold, but it's aimed to have that love and belonging feeling that is, remember back from your Psych 101 days of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, is still a thing. People are spending so much time at work, they're dedicating their resources and their time and their everything that they put into this. And so they want to feel seen, they want to feel heard. And so this connection is actually psychologically based, where that love and belonging, that third tier is, the bottom is, hey, am I breathing? Then do I feel safe? Really, Wishlist tries to inject itself in that third tier. We're aiming to build a tribe, a culture, something you can be proud to be a part of. But the platform is a picture of social media esque. You're able to recognize somebody or call out the good work that is happening. You can connect that to your company values. You can connect that to a business goal. You can tag a team, you can tag a department. We make it fun by you can add GIFs, emojis, you can record or take a picture of whatever if you went on an experience. And that gets
Yeah.
posted to a feed. And then you can also interact with that as you go along. We have integrations to Microsoft Teams, Slack, various HRIS integrations. So it's also, you can conduct exactly what you'd be doing on the platform from places you already work as well. And then there's also an administration side where you could set budgets, approval features, nominations, surveys, and then a data piece as well, where you can understand what is happening and engage with your culture to making sure it's improving too. Again, it's not just a social club we're trying to build here. We're trying to build a cohesive culture and a high performing team, because that also drives business results.
Right. So, what really crystallized the picture for me is when you said, think social media,
Mhm.
where I would go on and say, oh my God, look at this great dinner meal. And here's a picture. And by the way, I was with Mary and John and we discussed the closing of XYZ deal.
Exactly. Mhm.
All right. And then your software goes in with certain metrics to highlight connections and problems so that a decision maker, like you said, hey, we better go do some team building over there. Or there's an opportunity over in this region that we hadn't even thought of. Let's go in there and help make that happen.
Yeah, I love that. And I love the data aspect, Dan, which I'm sure you love the data aspect. That's because that's the big sale here is to actually catch the differences among the different people in your company as to where there is recognition and where there is not. And you don't pick that up necessarily in your engagement surveys. Is that correct?
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. And that's, the data piece is something that's central to our platform. And it's really interesting to even just start to see the data come through and aggregate that as a whole and just see how teams are interacting, even through the COVID landscape. And so, if a recognition platform is something that you're interested in, what we're seeing is good recognition companies will have data surrounding how many recognitions are sent, by who or by what team or individual. They may also have the ability to connect company values or even business goals. And most stop there. But to us, that really doesn't, I mean, it's nice to have, but we want to understand insights that allow me to change behaviors. And that's really what we're aiming to do. So some of the data pieces that we recently launched, one which I mentioned to you in the case study, was inclusivity. So you're able to see who is being left out potentially, and are they flight risks. We're also able to see the rewards and recognition penetration. So any correlations between offboarded employees and their engagement rate. We're looking at that employee NPS score, which we think is a great metric. It's traditionally used as a user or client facing metric, but let's look at that internally. How likely are your employees to recommend your company to work there? And so we're able to see and track improvement and benchmark those against other similar industries and verticals. A really interesting piece too is collaboration mapping. And so that's something we're actively building in the platform too. Traditionally you see org charts, who reports to who, only tells you so much, correct? But if you're able to see collaboration mapping, see who is interacting with who, maybe that new person that just started on your team is a key to several departments. And maybe that manager who's been around for 20 years is actually out on an island. So now we're starting to get to data that I can make decisions and change my behaviors to attract, to retain talent, and really build those culture. Not to mention, one of the things that we're building now is in beta testing is an in-platform ROI calculator. That's something that's been really difficult to measure is, rewards and recognition historically, okay, great, but how is this impacting my culture? How is this saving me money on turnover? So now we're gathering all interactions between your teams and we're correlating that to your payroll amounts, and we're spitting it out and showing engagement scores and how that is actively saving you money. So these are some of the metrics that I think are important for next stage workforces as we go through the pandemic. Is let's not just track numbers for the sake of tracking numbers, but let's actually look at data, which gives us insights, which allows us to change our behaviors.
Can you share with us? Okay, as you guys can tell, I love this podcast.
Yeah, it does.
So I know, boom, 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 boom. Okay, so let's say we've got good boss. We're going to call him a George. We got
Mhm.
bad boss. We're going to call him Brad. So George is good boss. Brad is bad boss. How are we tracking that the collaboration so we know that George is actually collaborating? What is happening? And let's say no, yeah, George is the good boss. Bad boss is Brad. How are we finding out that Brad is actually not collaborating? What would actually happen in the data?
Yeah, so what we're looking at through our system, and also looking at that through integrations like Slack and integrations like Microsoft Teams, is we're able to see how much they are recognizing all members of their team. Are they doing so evenly? Is their team interacting with other departments evenly or not evenly? And then we have baseline studies and metrics, and we compare that to, and we see his interaction with his team, and then compare that to normalized data, and then we spit out essentially a backend score, and then visualize that in a way with the collaboration mapping feature to show who is kind of the center of your organization and who is potentially farther out. So it almost looks like a spider web
Mhm.
with
Mhm.
kind of initials or names. And you can see people more central to the spider web have more interactions and are more regular or higher performing in terms of interaction with holistically across their teams, across their departments, and in a regular amount. And people less so are essentially a flight risk or potentially not engaged with their team. And now we're something that we need to take action for and look at their behaviors to say, is there actually something going on here?
Right, right. And two questions. So you're pulling out data and you're making this seems to show this seems to show that, and that's Wishlist pulling that data and giving a report to somebody. Someone has to be looking at this and saying, we need to do some action over here or over there. Who's that someone?
Yeah, you're exactly right. So our platform, actually, everyone has a login at the company. Now we have different levels and different user roles that are associated with that. So we don't show all the data to all the people, depending, and kind of mirror that to your organization. But what we're seeing is leadership is absolutely key to the success of recognition programs. And so that's not just the HR team, but leaders in general need to embody this, need to invest in it, need to believe it's an option. We're also spitting out, we realize that leaders' time is valuable. So we have some executive digest, but everything is available in platform. You send weekly email reminders to get you to click in and to look at the data. But it's all accessible through the platform. We have a whole data and insights page. It's like visualizes these different widgets that are available on that page, and you can able to track that over time and also compare it to benchmarks to see, how am I doing across industry verticals, et cetera.
Oh, you can even check how am I showing up,
Exactly. Yep.
right? To get my own
Yep.
feedback. That
Hmm.
is, which is a wonderful instant coaching feedback. I'm supposed to be interacting more. Is it really showing? It's not just me saying, oh, I'm interacting a whole lot more.
You're exactly right. I mean, education is so important, right? There's a difference between a manager and a leader, in my opinion, and it's so important. We have a quote on our wall at the office, and it says, it's actually by Zig Ziglar, and he says, "You don't build a business, you build people, and the people build the business." So,
Yeah.
with my background in the Navy, my first professional, experience was on teams that were literally life and death, and I still believe that teams are life and death, even outside of the military. They will truly make or break your organization. And so, how can we leverage products and teams to understand your data of your team, to be able to measure that, to be able to engage with it, and then to educate people and leaders in your organization to better support their people? Because what we're seeing is, as the age old adage, what we continue to be true, that the biggest reason people leave organizations is because of direct managers. So, how can I
Yeah.
help my managers, my people leaders, to help them support their team, to build their team, to show that engagement, to allow them to feel seen, the heard, even in remote environments, and then making sure that their performance, even though located all over, is still the best possible, because they have this connection with their team, they feel a part of their tribe, and they're able to do the best work possible.
I got a great question, Dan. Well, did I say I got a great question? I would love to know, Dan. Okay, this is a great question, because this is what I'm finding with some of the companies I work with is that, when it comes to engagement scores, and you ask, what do you think about your boss? People use, oh, 5 stars. He's amazing. She's amazing. But you don't really know, right? Because you have
Hmm.
no idea. And I'm just wondering if you could actually correlate reality through your system versus, being asked every quarter, how's my boss doing? Do you have any comment to that, Dan?
Yeah, I like it. Again, surveys are only so good because
Yeah.
there's that whole imposter syndrome. I don't want am I going to get thrown under the bus with that? So I like your idea. We're not actively doing that now, but I'm going to write it down because I like it.
Okay.
So
All
we could
right.
look at, yeah, I'll give you 10%. Don't worry, Mitch.
Thank you.
And we'll
Or
go from
20,
there.
20,
Yeah,
please.
yeah. All right, you got a deal. But I like the concept because we could look at survey data and then overlay that almost to our collaboration mapping data. And if we're
Hmm.
saying X manager, well, who's our bad guy? Brad. He's getting
Brad's back.
5 stars, but he's also at the edge of this, collaboration mapping the spider web. That's going to be a
Yes.
flag for me. Maybe that's something me, as Brad's leader, can jump into his team, because likely his team is potentially afraid. He's not building that cohesive culture. So that overlay could be really interesting and potentially be a higher risk than just negative, survey results, or not, high survey results, is that larger discrepancy.
Totally. And I heard you say something and I wanted to double check it. Do you gain access to other platforms? Like I heard you mention Slack. So we take this and then we compare it, because Slack, some might say, gives you certain data about
Mhm.
engagement.
Yes. So our platform can operate independently, but we also believe in integrations. And that's that the power of here is, people are already, and teams are already operating in Slack. They're already operating in Microsoft Teams. So we have applications within those where our platform syncs in two ways. We push data that way, we pull data from it. So anything you do in one of these communication tools is also synced to our platform. And so it's just nice to be able to have an application I can reward, I can recognize from either of those tools, and it will still collect the data and interactions within our platform.
This just blows my mind. It is it's the perfect example of you have this idea based on recognition. All right. That's going to be the hook. And yet you knew that hook had to be hooked to a lot of other things to be distinctive. And I do remember talking to one of your competitors about a year and a half ago. And they really don't go beyond, as you said, the point system. And then when I asked, what about comparative? Nowhere near it. This is an incredible tool.
Okay, I got to get to know the story, Dan, behind this.
Okay.
Where did this idea come from, and how did you go ahead and implement it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I actually didn't start the company. I
Okay.
took over from the founders back in 2017, but the founders actually met at an MBA program in 2010, I believe, in Spain. And they went into the grocery stores there, and you were able to buy this box that was an experience. And so they liked the concept and actually launched Wishlist back in 2012 as a B2C concept, where for birthdays or et cetera, instead of buying somebody something, you could buy them an experience. Well, they quickly got traction in the B2B space, and then pivoted in 2015. And then I took over from the founders in 2017 with really, we just had the rewards concept and the experiential rewards, but there was just so much potential energy that
Oh,
I wanted to
yeah.
convert to more kinetic energy. And actually, through the pandemic space, we saw such a big need, and we saw the workforce changing, and we saw that rewards were nice, and there's a play for them. We are a believer in rewards, but there's also a broader problem to be solved in today's workforce. So we took our hypothesis, we interviewed about 200 different companies, and what we saw though is, hey, there's other experiential, even experiential reward providers, but they didn't do a great job of connecting to an employer's why. And then we had recognition solutions that offered a way to send thank you and points back and forth. They didn't have meaningful rewards, but they really hadn't changed their approach to recognition in the past decade, even though the workforce has changed significantly. The COVID and the landscape has now changed significantly. And so we set off to create this forward looking recognition solution that was literally built in this environment for this environment of the workforce of the 2020s. And then we set that on top of our reward solution. And that's what we're excited about now is just the workplace has been shaken up so much. If you're doing the same things, it's going to create friction at some point. And so we're very passionate about building teams, about building culture, because we understand that's where business comes from. And so through our interviews, we really understood, and again, we have a long way to go, very much continual growth here and what our product can solve for. But the needs now have changed so significantly that we launched a new product for it, and excited to have it in the market since last December.
Cool. Cool.
Mic drop. Mic
Yeah.
drop.
My God.
That's what I got to say. It's mic drop. I mean,
Yeah, it's like, and then I don't know what to say after
I don't
that.
know what to say. I am taken aback here.
Yeah. It's just
Clem.
it's just
I mean, it's just like,
fabulous.
wow, that's like a
Yeah.
perfect solution.
And your latest explanation came full circle to the experience. You call it a recognition tool on one hand. I think you have to say recognition and experience tool, because that is such a major. Now, how do you come up with what these experiences are? You talk to the folks in that culture and what's important.
Yeah, building a marketplace is challenging for sure, and we've had a team designated to build out the marketplace over the time. So we have relationships with vendors across the U.S. Now we also have experiences internationally as well, and then we tap into aggregators for live events. We have access to about 1 million different live events that you can book real time. All done through the software, so you can get to that sports game that you always wanted to go see that concert that now that things are opening back up. So we have two different ways you're able to facilitate the rewards, one of which you can do it yourself, book on your own. So then tickets or whatever are just delivered to your inbox, or conversely, all the local experiences that we call, and we actually have a concierge team that will work with you to book that on your behalf. So you have two different options, whether it be like the white glove service of the independent bookings, or you just like doing it yourself and getting the tickets and going on from there.
Right. Terrific. Mitch, it's up to you to try to wrap this up.
How can people find you, get a hold of you, and get Wishlist? That's my biggest question, because I've just been writing down the CEOs that I want to set you up with right now, and I think you're going to be really busy.
I would love any and all introductions, whether they want to work with us specifically or just want to toss ideas around what their company needs, how to best find a solution that will work for them. Again, very much believers in cultures and recognition. And if that works to be with Wishlist, fantastic. If that's doing something yourself or somebody else, I'm just excited that the topic of cultures and performance is still top of mind, and even more so coming through the pandemic. You can find Wishlist specifically at enjoywishlist.com. And then please feel free to connect with me personally as well on LinkedIn. Dan Kasper, happy to have a conversation, talk about the space, what you guys are foreseeing coming down the pike, and seeing if there's ever a way we can work together.
All right, Dan. And Kasper
Wonderful.
is Kasper.
That is
For
correct.
anyone
Yep.
who's like jumping on LinkedIn right this very second. Wow, Dan, that was amazing.
It was wonderful.
Amazing. Gosh,
Yep.
Appreciate it.
fantastic. We're
Yes.
definitely going to bring you back on the show as soon as possible because there's so much to talk about.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, I'm
It was
sitting over here. This is
fantastic.
great.
Yeah,
Dan.
thank you guys. No, I love
Thank
the
you.
energy, love the questions. I feel like it was very conversational and got to some cool things. So really appreciate the opportunity. If there's any way I can help or connect anyone, really appreciate it. Let me know how I can help.
All right,
Thanks,
great.
Dan.
Thank you, Ginny, for finding this man. Really great. Absolutely. Thank you to our fans, our listeners, our audience, our friends. Please share this as soon as possible with all your favorite CEOs and leaders so they can get on to Enjoy Wishlist and check it out. As for me, I'm really excited about this podcast. I look forward to another episode of Team Anywhere. Please share this episode with your friends and colleagues, and we'll see you next time on our show.